Disease transmission in great apes. So why is this important to us? From a conservation point of view, both the orangutan and chimp are highly threatened. Surely we can't allow these amazing creatures to disappear. Life would not be the same. Great apes can differ in social structures. The orangutan is generally observed solitary, whilst our chimpanzee is more commonly observed in social groups. So what diseases can infect great apes? Those such as Ebola, measles, tuberculosis, influenza and other respiratory diseases are thought to pose a particular threat to survival. And how are these spread? We must consider, is the animal social or solitary? How easily is it passed from one individual to another? And once infected, how long do symptoms remain for? While symptoms of flu normally subside within 2 to 5 days, diseases such as TB can last up to an astounding 17 days. We then have, most importantly, transmission. Is it passed through the air, orally, fecally, via an STD or through parasites? But we all get ill, so why is this such a big deal from a conservation point of view with apes? Due to long lifespans, a long period is necessary in order to get over disease epidemics. As these animals are wild, for each individual that dies, recovery rate for the group decreases. Therefore, the probability of the population continuing becomes threatened as potential mate numbers also decline. What do we already know? Our chimpanzee, being very social, therefore closer to others of his kind, makes him more susceptible to diseases, with previous stats reporting infection in 20 to 98%, with 3 to 17% reported dying from infection. Our furry orangutan, on the other hand, is generally more antisocial, although sometimes seen with offspring. This may explain the lack of documented disease epidemics. Human impact. If we take Simon, our zookeeper, as an example, he comes into work on a Monday morning. Despite feeling a bit run down, he then sneezes into his hands, forgetting to wash them. He then touches a rehabilitated orangutan. This individual then interacts with 2 wild orangutans and as a result infects them. A similar story could be observed with tourists. Representing this group, the retired couple Donald and Jacqueline from TV series Benidorm. Donald's just had his first summer pension come through, so both decide to take their first holiday to Borneo. But during this trip, Jacqueline becomes ill with a cold. Whilst visiting the orangutans, Jacqueline sneezes, accidentally missing her tissue, so germs go directly into the orangutan enclosure, and I'm guessing you can predict what happens next. Natural diseases that affect great apes in the absence of humans also continue to be a big threat. Understanding how diseases are spread within populations, therefore, is vital in order to be able to implement effective preventative measures, as well as being able to minimise the risk of losing individuals and ultimately the species to disease. Species loss would indirectly affect biodiversity. This is a range of organisms that interact with each other in a habitat. If extinction occurred, all previous interaction with other plants and animals within that area would suffer. So what did scientists do? Firstly, a research group came together. They then constructed a model using 46 orangutans and 55 chimpanzee to predict the spread of disease in world populations. Once the model was created, or disease network to be precise, one individual from random, known as patient 0, was chosen to become infected. All other individuals were classified as susceptible. Infected individuals were later categorised as recovered. At each step, the disease was passed from infected to susceptible individuals based on the transmission coefficient. This was based on the level of disease infectiousness and how often individuals associated with one another. Once infected, the individuals would recover in succession based on disease type. However, it must be noted that recovered individuals included those that survived the infection as well as those that died. The modelling stopped as soon as there were no more infected individuals left in the population. The total number was later calculated to determine the size of each test epidemic. Tests were carried out 10,000 times for each type of disease tested, and the average result was taken. What was found? Our orangutan was found to be pretty resistant to diseases, even with those that generally had low recovery. On average, only 5 and mere 14% of the population became infected. Our chimpanzee, on the other hand, was found to be much more vulnerable to disease. Highly infectious diseases were found to spread to almost all members of the network, even when combined with a high recovery probability. It was found that a disease only needed a transmission probability of 50% in order to reach over 40 members, which is 73% of the chimpanzee community on average.